section and the food section, and they have Dove as their brand, and I think it's one of the most successful brands in Unilever. And they were all discussing and thinking, God, everyone just knows of us as a brand of soap. We would like to have something deeper and understand it a little bit better, and just have a hallmark, something that, you know, hey, we're a personal beauty brand, let's find out what women feel about their beauty. So they started to set up kind of events around the world in Toronto, in New York, in Times Square, questioning what is beauty. Did you guys remember that campaign? It was called the Real Beauty Campaign. And it started to question women, but the most interesting thing is they did a research, I think in 15 countries, asking women from the age of 14 to 65 what they thought about their beauty. And they were overwhelmed with the results. Only 2% of women in the world are comfortable acknowledging their beauty and feeling and using the word "I'm beautiful." Only 2% at that time. This was in 2004, 2005. So they really realized that they had hit a nerve that is deep in a lot of women throughout the world, through different cultures, that there's this idea that I'm not beautiful enough. So where is this coming from? So from that moment, they started to change the way they looked at their brand and the way they advertised it, and they changed their core messaging, that they wanted beauty to be not a source of anxiety for women, but something to honor. And from that moment, they realized, what are we going to do with young girls and the future generation of women? 9 out of 10 girls are not happy with their body. They criticize some part of their body. About 7 out of 10 girls, when they don't feel comfortable with their beauty and their body, they opt out of sports. They don't give their opinion in class. They sometimes don't even go to school. They don't go to the doctors because they're not comfortable with their body. So it's something very powerful, and then the whole movement began, and they really separated from the brand, and that's when Dove Self-Esteem Project began. And the first material that came out, they gathered a couple of great psychologists and leaders and self-esteem and beauty experts, and they created the first material, which was called the True You booklet, because they realized in their investigation that the closer a mother and daughter bond is, the higher the self-esteem is of a daughter. So he thought, that's where we're going to work through. We're going to work through a mother-daughter bond. And they created this wonderful booklet, and then I come into the story. This is now, flash forward 2007, and I was invited to give conferences, eating disorder-based conferences, to share with young people, not to compare themselves with stereotypes of beauty, because it could be a source of eating disorder, so we were focused more on that. And I was invited to be a public speaker, and I spoke in front of a lot of youth to talk about this theme, and it was funded by Dove. It was a small project in Mexico. Oh, by the way, I'm Canadian. And I moved to Mexico in 1995, so I've been there for 23 years. So I just have a whole little Latin person functioning inside of myself in my hands, and I finally found a country that accepted me with all my enthusiasm, and you know, yeah, because Toronto and Montreal is just a different story. So I felt very happy in Mexico, and I was giving conferences. And then the 2 other colleagues of mine, we thought that, you know, it's a bit limited, the eating disorder, it's only a certain part of the population, and why don't we open up to something even deeper and larger? Self-esteem is a core issue in a lot of our social programs and a lot of stories about our own lives, so we opened up our Self-Esteem Foundation, and that was in 2008. We arrived to Dove, we gave them our pitch, as you call it, a bit of a marketing psychologist doing pitches in a beautiful office in Mexico City, and they loved it. And they said, we're going to really launch this thing. So the first thing that we did was create a mother-daughter workshop. Why? Because in the world, people would download the material, but in Mexico, only 11% of the population had internet. So we thought, oh goodness, they're not going to be getting this wonderful material, so we're going to actually create a workshop, and we did, a mother-daughter workshop that is basically what is still living and growing here in New Zealand. And we reached 11,000 mother and daughters in the first year. As with Unilever, they always hit high numbers and they want a lot of reach. So, you know, with a group of psychologists, we started and we did, and it's really beautiful when you get a high benchmark, because then you realize that you need to have alliances, because you can't get anywhere. Even if you're 3-4 people, you can't get anywhere if you don't have a good alliance and people that want the same thing that you do. And we worked with a great foundation that we're helping mothers and women, and we just created this wonderful workshop and reached about 100 moms and daughters every time we went out and gave a workshop. And it was really profound, because there were psychologists in the different communities where we went and gave the workshops that mentioned after the workshop, even though it was a three-hour experience or workshop, that after that they noticed a difference in the mothers in the community. That they were mothers and daughters who kind of got together and put limits in their households. Maybe they lived in a household that had abuse, and they noticed that they were making a difference. And putting a stop, and that bond, the strengthening between mother and daughters had a big effect in the machismo style culture, that they were noticing that it was creating a difference with something that was just basically bonding, talking about emotions, and they realized how profound and deep it had affected the community after the mothers and daughters came out of that workshop. So it was really quite inspiring. And around the same time I met Penny, and then came down and did workshops and conferences, and went around New Zealand and fell in love with New Zealand. And from that, the next time I think I came, I gifted the workshop, we trained Alicia, that's when I met you. We started to have fun with that, and I've come back every 2 years just to see how the project's growing. And every time I come back, there's new people coming in, and there's wonderful, it just, over the years, has strengthened and got better and better, and so I'm really happy to see how it's grown. And again, as you say, Alicia, another 10 years, let's see where we're gonna head with this, but that's basically the story of the Mother-Daughter Workshop, Dove, and they still are working on it. I think they're reaching about 25 million people with all this workshop and material that you can use. And what else can I do? Oh, geez, the most important. I'd like to talk and have a little pause to think about our bond with our mothers. Not all of us have children, but we all have a mom. And so this is the moment that I just want to have a pause and think about that wonderful bond that we had with our mothers. They gave us our life and many, many things, and how it is related to our self-esteem. And I had a chance to kind of sit and think about this, and I realized when you're young, there's a lot of questions that you're challenged with. Am I beautiful? Am I smart? Am I good enough? And these feelings or these questions are mostly answered by the people that are important to you in your life, which is your mom and also your dad, but your mom. So it is something so important, that bond, because self-esteem is a perception, and it is gathered through messages you receive through your life. So if you're living and you get a negative message, thrown on you, what happens is that you start to mold the perception you have of yourself and the thoughts that you have about yourself. So it's so important and it's so delicate, and it's very multifactorial, but at the end of the day, the mother and daughter bond is probably the core of, I think, our self-esteem as we grow older. And we all know that our self-esteem is something so important that determines a lot of the success that we have at work, how we become mothers ourselves, the relationship the men that we choose in our lives have a lot to do with that idea of, am I lovable? Am I good enough? And that has a huge impact. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So moms are important, and I really would love to take this moment to maybe close our eyes, if you don't mind, and take a couple of deep breaths. And imagine that your mother is in front of you. And acknowledge this woman who brought you into this life. Feel her presence, feel her warmth. And if you feel like telling her something something that you thank her for, or you value her for, take that opportunity to tell her. Let's honor our mothers. And if you feel she's going to tell you something, let her express something to you. That connection, even if your mother is no longer here, is always with you and deep inside your heart. So we thank our moms. If we want to give her a hug, we can give her a hug. And we slowly come back here. So I think that bond or that connection or that nurturing is so important in our lives, and so important when we do become mothers or we nurture a project if we don't have children, or when we have children. That base or that love is something so important, which I think is the core of a family and a core of the community. And also, I just really want to thank Penny for being touched by that 15-minute conference and this 10-year journey, and to know that every time that I come back, this keeps growing and touching lives. I went to see Julie do a beautiful workshop a couple of days ago, and it was amazing, the bond, the communication, the connection of mother-daughter, and I just hope that there's going to be many, many more. I think you've reached 1,000 lives, and I hope many thousands of lives more, and we keep working with this mother-daughter workshop. Thanks very much. Mordida. Inside the cake. We're not going to do that today. We're not going to do that tradition.
Oh, I don't want to. Yeah. All the way down to the bottom. Okay. Oh. Even then. Yeah, is that good enough? Yay! Mordida. And then somebody will come and get us. Do it again. There you go. That's great. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Oh dear. This is a beautiful cake. Oh my goodness. There we go. Oh. Wow. Spectacular. It's lovely.